In this lecture, I am going to start the vibrational motion. In the last few lectures, we had discussed the translational motions under different confinement, like particle in 1D box, particle in 2D box, particle in 3D box, etc. In this lecture, I am going to start vibrational motion. Okay, for this purpose, I am going to take a diatomic molecule. I am going to assume that the diatomic molecule executing harmonic oscillation. Okay, so before proceed, suppose let us take a diatomic molecule. Okay, let this atom has mass m1 and this atom has mass m2. It is a two-body problem. This is actually a two-body problem, and we all know that a two-body problem for which Schrödinger equation cannot be solved. Okay, Schrödinger are very difficult to solve, I can say. So Schrödinger equation is very difficult to solve for two-body problem, but you can convert a two-body problem into one-body problem. Okay, how to do that? Right, we can convert a two-body problem into one-body problem by changing the coordinates into center of mass coordinate, and relative coordinates. Okay, so by changing the center of taking center of mass coordinate and relative coordinates, we can convert this two-body problem into one-body problem, in which actually you will get when you take center of mass coordinate and relative coordinate. Okay, see, suppose assume that this is the center of mass point. Okay, and center of mass coordinate. Let me represent center of mass coordinate as x, y, z. Okay, and you know very well what is x. X is nothing but m1 into x1 plus m2 into x1, y1 and z1 are coordinates of this atom. x2, y2 and z2 are coordinates of the atom having mass m2. Okay, so the center of mass coordinates can be written as m1 into x1 plus m2 into x2 divided by m1 plus m2, where m1 plus m2 is the total mass of the molecule. Let me represent that as m. Similarly, you can define the y coordinate and z coordinate. This capital X, capital Y, capital Z represent center of mass coordinates. Okay, similarly, we can also define relative coordinates. Relative coordinate is expressed as x, y, z, where x is equal to x1 minus x2 and y equal to y1 minus y2 and z equal to z1 minus z2. Okay, so by taking center of mass coordinate and relative coordinate, right, we will get two types of motion. Number one, motion associated with the center of mass coordinate. We call this motion as translational motion. Translational motion. Since we have already discussed about translational motions, so I'm not going to discuss translation motion again here. Okay, so actually the motion associated center of mass coordinate, right, is related with the total mass of the molecule. Is related with the total mass. Okay, and that motion is called translation motion. We are not going to discuss translation motion again here. I am going to consider only the second motion called the relative motion. this relative motion, okay, it actually depends on the relative coordinates. It corresponds to relative coordinates of the system. Okay, and in relative motion, the mass of the object becomes equal to the reduced mass. Mu is reduced mass. So if you take relative motion, and here what is relative motion actually? Relative motion is how the two atoms moves, okay, relative to each other. Okay, that is called relative motion. So in this case, relative motion is nothing but vibrational motion. Relative motion in this case is nothing but vibrational motion. So if a diatomic molecule vibrates, okay, since it is a two-body problem, for two-body problem we cannot solve Schrödinger equation. Okay, by transforming the coordinates into center of mass coordinate and relative coordinate, okay, then you will get two types of motion. One associated with the center of mass coordinate, the other one associated with the relative coordinate. Okay, the motion associated with the center of mass coordinate is called translation motion. We are not going to discuss translation motion here because we are already familiar with the translation motion and translational kinetic energy, etc. Our focus is here is the relative motion. So what I am trying to say, keep the center of mass as such. Okay, right? So we should not allow center of mass to move. Okay, keeping center of mass point at a fixed position. Okay, just allow the two atoms to move each other relative to each other. Okay, that is called vibrational motion. Right, so we are going to focus only on vibrational motion here, and in this case we have converted this diatomic molecule into a single mass having the mass value mu, called reduced mass. Right, see what I am trying to say. Now we have converted this object into a single body having mass mu. Right, this is going to vibrate, okay, in a to and fro manner. Along a particular axis. Let us take that axis as x-axis. Okay, and this is, let us take this position as equilibrium position. At equilibrium, okay, what is equilibrium position or equilibrium length? Equilibrium bond length is nothing but the length where the molecule has lowest possible energy. Okay, and in harmonic assumption, if you assume the molecule as harmonic oscillator, then the lowest energy can be taken as 0. Right? Yeah. See what I am trying to say. Now we have converted a diatomic molecule into a single body. That single body has mass mu. It is called reduced mass. You know very well, reduced mass is nothing but m1 into m2 by m1 plus m2. Okay. Listen. Actually, in this coordinate transformation, right, we can observe the total mass and reduced mass, everything. Okay, but this is not the right place to discuss the coordinate transformation. So what I am going to do, I will discuss how to convert a two-body problem into one-body problem in forthcoming lecture. Okay, not here, right? Yeah. So now this single body is vibrating in one particular axis. Okay, let us take that axis as x-axis. Therefore, you can call this as a one-dimensional motion. Since this motion is to and fro motion, you know very well to and fro motion is called oscillatory motion. Okay, therefore it is an oscillator. To and fro motion is called oscillatory motion. Therefore this molecule or this object is called an oscillator. If an oscillator, this is very important, if an oscillator obeys Hooke's law, at all displacement we call that oscillator as a simple harmonic we call that oscillator a simple harmonic oscillator. We represent simply this as XHO. Okay, so here I am going to assume that this molecule, right, having reduced mass mu, right, that molecule behaves like an harmonic oscillator. So that means it obeys Hooke's law at all displacement. Under this assumption, you can call this oscillator as one-dimensional simple harmonic oscillator. So a diatomic molecule can be considered or can be assumed as a one-dimensional simple harmonic oscillator. Okay, now then the next point is that what is this Hooke's law? Hooke's law. Right. According to Hooke's law, see, when the object undergoes oscillation, say for example, let me take that object in a stretched manner. Okay, so I have elongated, so it is kept in a stretched manner, where this length, say this length, is the x0, and let us assume this is the equilibrium position. At equilibrium, displacement is 0, x value is 0. Okay, now I have stretched the atom, or I have stretched the single body, and I kept at a distance x0, where x0 is called the amplitude. Where x0 is called the amplitude. Okay, let us take the time now is 0. Now if I release this body, what will happen? This body will move towards this side, and again it will come back and goes here and come back. Okay, so it starts to execute the oscillatory motion. Right, now in this oscillatory motion, listen, when you stretch the body, or when the body moves in this direction, some force will act on the spring. It will try to keep the body to the equilibrium position. The force that tries to keep the body to the equilibrium position is what we call as restoring force. Okay, so this restoring force, right, which I am going to represent as F, the restoring force acting on the spring is directly proportional to minus of displacement. Why the minus sign? Because if displacement takes place in the right hand side direction, then the force will act in the opposite direction. So force and the displacement acts in the opposite direction. That's why we put minus sign here. Okay, remember, F is the restoring force and X is the displacement. If I equate this, we should introduce a constant. Let me introduce that constant as K, where this K is called force constant. It's called force constant of the bond. Okay, it is called force constant of the bond. You know very well, force constant is a measure of strength of a bond. Okay, force constant is a measure of strength of a bond. If force constant increases, the bond strength also increases. For example, suppose I'll take carbon-carbon single bond, carbon-carbon double bond, and carbon-carbon triple bond. We know very well stretching carbon-carbon triple bond is tougher because you have triple bond which is very, very strong. Therefore, the force constant increases in this way. Okay, yeah. So force constant is a measure of the strength of the bond. Right? Yeah. Keep this information in mind. Now, so this is the restoring force. Now, what I will do, and we know that from basic physics, we know that negative of change in potential energy with respect to displacement is equal to force. It is equal to force acting on the system. Therefore, minus dV by dx is equal to, in this case, the force is restoring force, which is equal to minus k into x. So, if I cancel this minus sign, I'll get dV by dx equal to kx. Bring this dx to the right hand side. So, we can write dV equal to k into x into dx. Now, I'll integrate both sides. So, integral dV equal to k into integral x into dx. Integral dv is v equal to k into integral x into dx is x square by 2. Then we should introduce a constant called integration constant. Okay, now we need to find out the value of the integration constant. Okay, let us take this equation as equation number 1. To find c, put x equal to 0. x0 means no displacement. Okay, no displacement means the molecule is present in equilibrium geometry. Equilibrium geometry. Remember, equilibrium geometry is a geometry where the molecule possesses the lowest possible energy. Under harmonic oscillator assumption, this energy, that is at equilibrium geometry, the potential energy of the molecule is taken as 0. I repeat, for under harmonic assumption, at equilibrium geometry, the potential energy of the molecule is taken as 0. So at x equal to 0, potential energy of the molecule also 0. Okay, yeah. So if I substitute here, if I put x equal to 0 here and v equals 0 here, then I'll get c also 0. Okay, so therefore equation 1 will give me potential energy v equal to k into x square by 2, because c is 0. Right, and here see, k is a constant, number 2 is a constant, so the only variable here is the displacement. So potential energy varies with the displacement. Okay, and this equation, right, looks like a parabola. Right, so here potential energy has behaves like a parabolic manner. Okay, so it is a parabolic potential energy. Potential energy here is parabolic potential energy, and it is continuous. It is continuous. Continuous means, right, because we know very well the Hooke's law is valid for all displacement. So as x increases in the positive side means elongation, negative side means compression. Whether it is elongation or compression, right, potential energy is always positive. Right, so here potential energy is continuous. Not only that, potential energy is always positive here. Potential energy is positive. So if I plot this, suppose if I plot potential energy in y-axis and x value, right, in the x-axis, right, here x is equal to 0. X equal to 0 means equilibrium geometry, and this side x is positive and this side x is negative. Positive means elongation and negative means compression. Okay, in the elongation or compression, see, in elongation x is positive, in compression x is negative. Whether x positive or negative, you are going to take square anyway. Therefore potential energy is always positive, right, and it appears like a parabola. Right, so you will get a parabolic appearance, right, of potential energy for simple one-dimensional simple harmonic oscillator. This is how the potential energy will appear for one-dimensional simple harmonic oscillator. Okay, now since it is a parabolic form, right, we can also write the potential energy for small displacements using Taylor series. Okay, let me write in the next page. See, we can use Taylor series. Okay, based on Taylor series, you can write potential energy as potential energy depends on the displacement x. Okay, now I can expand this potential energy using Taylor series for small displacements. Okay, so what is that? Potential energy at x equal to 0 plus change in potential energy with respect to displacement at x equal to 0 into x plus double derivative, second derivative, d square v by dx square at x equal to 0 into x square by 2 factorial. 2 factorial is 2 plus cubic term, quartic term, all other terms will come. Okay, this is how we write the potential energy, right, if it appears like a parabolic form. Right, see, potential energy, right, for simple harmonic oscillator, for one-dimensional simple harmonic oscillator, potential energy appears like a parabola. whenever a function appears as parabola, right, then you can use Taylor series. Right, this Taylor series is actually applicable for small displacements. Right, for some small displacement, we can write potential energy as potential energy at equilibrium geometry plus change in potential energy, first derivative of potential energy. First derivative of potential energy with respect to displacement at equilibrium geometry at x equals 0. Right, so these are all the expansions. Listen, since this formula, or since we are considering only small displacement, for small displacements, okay, higher power terms like cubic term, right, quartic term, etc., can be neglected. Okay, because we are considering only small displacement. Here I like to mention one thing. Actually, molecules, diatomic molecules, cannot be an harmonic oscillator. Okay, actual molecules are anharmonic oscillator, but in low displacement, for low displacement, okay, you can assume the molecule may behave like harmonic oscillator. Under small displacement, the higher power terms become negligible. Then under simple harmonic oscillator, for a simple harmonic oscillator, we have told that potential energy at equilibrium geometry is 0. So the potential energy equal to potential energy at equilibrium geometry is 0 plus what is the change in potential energy? dV by dx, right? Listen, dV by dx, see, we have a minima here, right? At x equal to 0, okay, we have a minima. For minima or at maxima, you know very well, first derivative value is 0. Therefore, first derivative value is 0, so 0 into x, anyway it becomes 0. Then second derivative, since we are getting a minima here, okay, whenever you get minima, then the second derivative value should be positive. This value should be positive value, right? If you get maxima, second derivative value is negative, right? Since we are getting a minima here, or we can say a concave up. If you get a curve which appears like concave up, then the second derivative value is positive, right? And that value is a positive value and it is a constant. That constant is represented as k, also called force constant. So k into x square by 2, right? So under harmonic oscillation, the first term that survives here is k x square by 2. Actually, cubic term, quartic term also will come, but their contributions under small displacement, their contributions are negligible, so you can neglect. Okay, so remember, this is the potential energy expression which we already got through Hooke's law. Okay, yeah. Now, one thing that I like to remind you, that here force constant is nothing but d square v by dx square at equilibrium geometry at x equal to 0. At x equal to 0. Second derivative of potential energy with respect to displacement, right, at x equal to 0 will give you the force constant. And you know very well, mathematically, second derivative will tell you about the bending nature of the curve. Okay, what is meant by that? See, suppose I'll take, this is the potential energy. Suppose I'll take a molecule having a parabolic potential energy like this, and another molecule which has potential energy which is also parabolic, but it appears like this. Now the question arises, which molecule has a stronger bond, or strength of the bond is high for which one, whether this curve or for this curve? Listen, it is very simple. This curve is a narrow curve, right, and this curve is a shallow. Okay, it is wide and shallow. Always remember, narrow curve has higher value of second derivative. So d square v by dx square, okay, is high for narrow curve. For shallow curve, d square v by dx square value is low. Okay, so if the curve is narrow, then it has higher value of second derivative. Therefore the force constant is high. So when you move from a shallow curve to narrow curve, if you move from shallow curve to narrow curve, the force constant increases, K increases. K increases. Very, very important. Keep this in mind. Okay. So this is regarding second derivative of potential energy. Okay. If the second derivative of potential energy with respect to displacement, okay, if it is high, it means the curve is narrow. If it is low, then it means the curve is shallow curve. Right? Yeah. So I have introduced what is potential energy expression here. Now what I am going to do, first let me use classical mechanics ideas, and I'll show you how the total energy exists for this molecule. Okay. So first let me use classical mechanics. I'll apply classical mechanics for this one-dimensional simple harmonic oscillator, and we'll get the expression for energy, and we'll see whether energy is continuous or not, okay, or is there any discreteness present in the energy. Okay, let me discuss that first. Now you know very well total energy is nothing but kinetic energy plus potential energy. Okay, then what is kinetic energy? Kinetic energy is half, here mass is mu, because we have taken a single body having mass mu, of m or of mu v square. V is nothing but dx by dt the whole square. Okay, of m v square, right? In the place of m I put mu, in the place of velocity I'll put dx by dt, plus what is the potential energy? K x square by 2 under harmonic assumption, right? Yeah. Now so if you know an equation for displacement x, then you can calculate the total energy. Okay, let me take this as equation number 2. So first let me derive an expression for the equation of motion. Okay, then I'll come back here. Okay, yeah. Now we know that from Hooke's law, we got this expression, restoring force equal to minus kx. Then from Newton's law of motion, we know force is equal to mass into acceleration. Here mass is mu, into acceleration is d square x by dt square. Mass into acceleration. Since these two force represents the same force, so I can equate these two. Therefore mu into d square x by dt square equal to minus k into x. I'll bring this mu this side, so you can write d square x by dt square equal to minus k by mu into x. Bring this term to the left hand side, so you can write d square x by dt square plus k by mu into x equal to 0. Okay, yeah. So this is the equation we need to solve. Before that, since k is a force constant, which is a constant for a given molecule, and mu is reduced mass, it is also a constant for a given molecule. Therefore I'll replace this k by mu into a new constant. Okay, let me take that constant as omega square, where omega is the angular frequency. Why I am saying this angular frequency? Because see, omega square is k by mu. So what is omega? Omega equal to root of k by mu. Now let me check the units. Root of, I am going to consider unit. Unit of force constant is Newton per meter, and unit of mass is kilogram. And you know very well Newton is nothing but kilogram meter square per second. Kilogram meter per second square, and we have a meter inverse here divided by kilogram. Kilogram cancel, meter inverse cancel. So root of per second square can be written as per second. Per second is also called as hertz. So this square root of k by mu, also called omega, that omega has the unit, this square root of k by mu has the unit of second inverse or hertz. That's why this omega is called as frequency. Okay, so omega here is angular frequency. Now what I'll do, I'll replace this k by mu by omega square. So what will I get? If I do that, I'll get d square x by dt square plus omega square into x equal to 0. So this is the equation we need to solve. But this equation, this second order differential equation, is a very simple one. So I'll write the solution directly. The solution for this equation is equal to x is equal to a cos omega t plus b sine omega into t. This is the general solution. Now what we have to do? We have to make the solution which is applicable for our system. Okay, see what I say here is let us take this equation as equation number 3. See, at time 0, see, I have told you that when we started the Hooke's law, I told you initially the body is under stretched condition. We have kept the body at stretched condition at time 0. If you release, then the body will start to oscillate. Okay. Now, listen, at t equal to 0, right? What is the value of x? X is equal to x naught. Okay. So at t equal to 0, the value of x is equal to the amplitude. So what I'm going to do, I'll substitute wherever t is there in the equation 3, I'll put t as 0, and in the place of x, I'll put x naught. So what will I get? X naught equal to a into, if I put t equals 0 here, cos 0 is 1, so I'll get a, plus if I put t 0 here, sin 0 is 0, so this becomes 0. It means the value of x is equal to x naught. Okay, yeah. So I'll put that value first. So now the equation 3 becomes equal to x is equal to, now we have found out the value of a, which is x naught into cos omega t plus b into sin omega t. Now we need to find out the value of b. For that, I am going to differentiate this. So the velocity dx by dt equal to, if I differentiate cos, I'll get minus sin. So minus x naught into omega into sin omega t, plus if I differentiate this, I'll get cos omega t multiplied by omega. So b into omega into sin omega t. I'm sorry, cos omega t. Okay, now what is the velocity at time 0? At time 0, the molecule is not moving, so the velocity should be 0. Dx by dt should be equal to 0. Right? So wherever t is there, put t equals 0 and dx by dt equal to 0. So I'll get this is 0. So if I put 0 here, sin 0 is 0, so the entire term becomes 0 here. If I put 0, cos 0 is 1. Okay, so you'll get b into omega, angular frequency. Okay, b into omega is 0. Listen, omega is not equal to 0. Omega is angular frequency. Angular frequency for any molecule, it's a constant. You know very well. Omega is nothing but root of k by mu. For a given molecule, k is a constant, mu is a constant, so omega cannot be 0. Therefore, only value that becomes 0 is b. So if b is 0, then this equation becomes, let me take this equation as equation number 4. So equation 4 will become x is equal to x naught into cos into omega t. This is the equation of motion of this oscillator. X is equal to x naught into cos omega t. Remember, x naught is the amplitude of the vibration. Okay, then. So what is velocity? Dx by dt. Now I'll differentiate this. Dx by dt equal to x naught into cos omega t. If you differentiate, you get minus omega into sin omega t. This is the expression for velocity. Okay. Now let me go back to the equation for energy. See, you know very well the expression for energy is this. Okay, that is according to equation number 2. Here we have velocity, here we have x square. So I'll substitute those values here. Therefore, from equation 2, I can write total energy as half into mu into square of the velocity. This is velocity. If I square it, I'll get x naught square omega square into sin square omega t, plus potential energy K by 2 into x square is there. This is x value. If I take square, I'll get x naught square into cos omega t. Okay, here E is equal to mu into omega square is nothing but k. Mu into omega square is nothing but k. So 1 by 2 into k into x naught square. Okay, you'll get 1 by 2 k x naught square. Here also we have 1 by 2 k x naught square. I'll take those things constant. I'll take those things out. So I'll get sine square omega t plus cos square omega t. Sine square omega t plus cos square omega t become 1. So E is equal to half into k into x naught square. This is the expression for total energy for the simple harmonic oscillator. Okay, and listen, for simple harmonic oscillator, total energy depends on the force constant of the bond and the amplitude of vibration. Total energy depends on amplitude of vibration. Anyway, this is a constant for a given molecule, right? And amplitude, yes, you can stretch the molecule to any extent. According to Hooke's law, any displacement is allowed. Therefore, any value of displacement amplitude is possible. If any value is allowed, then energy can also take any possible value. Okay, see what I'm trying to say is that x naught can take any possible value. Therefore, the total energy also can also take any possible value. If any possible value is allowed, that means total energy is continuous. Right? So this is the conclusion we draw from classical mechanics. Okay, and total energy continuous. You know very well, whenever total energy is continuous, then spectrum is not possible. Okay, but we know very well diatomic molecules will give characteristic vibrational spectra. They may be active in IR or Raman, and they'll give characteristic signal. Okay, so characteristic vibrational spectra are observed